Call the order at 12:02. Do we have any citizen comments? Alright, so we're on to Katie Hollingshead for phase 2 of the comprehensive plan.
Hello, so my name is Katie Hollingshead. I'm the assistant planner for the city of Lewiston. I came in front of you guys in April and we did our phase 1 survey. The city is in the process of rewriting its comprehensive plan, which is a long-range planning document that's required by the state of Idaho. It covers 17 different areas for planning use. We are in our second phase, so we asked a bunch of questions. We did a bunch of outreach several months ago, and from that, our consultants kind of drilled down into what are called visions, themes, and opportunities. So visions are kind of those high-level ideas of what we want to see happen in the city, in kind of vague terms in the next 20 years. Long-range planning documents are designed to be a 20-year horizon, so called Envision 2044, because that's what we're looking at. What do you want Lewiston to look like by 2044? So that's visions. Themes are kind of the second level of that. So you have this vision of what you want to look like. Themes are kind of how we're going to start getting there, right? And then opportunities are actions. So those are things. Do we see areas in the city where we would like to see more housing, where we would like to see more recreation, where we would like to see more shopping, where we would like to see infrastructure improvements, all of those sorts of things we could talk about as opportunities. So much like I did last time, I brought a paper survey with me and cards for you to take back to your businesses or other institutions. We're going to physically go through this survey together during the meeting, and then I will hand enter them for you guys into the system. And then you can pass out, I have cards to give you at the end that have a QR code that will link you to the survey. So you guys can hand those out and people can do them at their own leisure. It's going to be open for about another week and a half. It closes next Sunday, so I think that's what, the 25th. And so if I had everybody done by then, we're good to go. We will be at the Lewiston Farmers Market this coming Saturday from 8 to noon, soliciting feedback from people. This is the second one of those that we have done. So that's another way that we're kind of reaching out to the community to get feedback. So, let Mr. Mark get settled in before we start.
I kind of know this.
I'll say Mark is part of our steering committee for the comprehensive plan rewrite. And
the liaison from this committee.
Yes, from this committee. So he has already seen this, so he has a good idea. Have you completed it yet, Mark?
The second survey, no.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so easy peasy. I'm going to go through. I'm going to read them, and we're going to answer. I'm going to collect them all at the end. Okay. So, like I said, we're looking kind of big picture here. This is a projection to 2044. So which of these words or phrases describes Lewiston right now? And you can select up to 5. And please only select 5 because it literally does not let me enter more than 5. And so I just do them in order if you try to select all of them. So do you think these words or phrases describe Lewiston right now? Thriving, small town feel, access to outdoor recreation, walkable downtown, safe and welcoming, family friendly, strong sense of community, strong and diverse economy, diverse housing options, sustainable, high quality of life, promotes health and well-being, collaborative and empowering atmosphere, and smart infrastructure investments. And smart infrastructure investments is on the second page. If you're like, where did you get that from? So you pick 5 of those phrases that you feel describe Lewiston in its current state. And then thinking about those same words and phrases, we're going to look forward. So which of these words and phrases should describe Lewiston in 2044? If you want the same 5 to be the ones in 2044, you can totally put those down. But if you think that you would like to see other things occurring by 2044, then those would be the selections that you check. So again, thriving, small town feel, access to outdoor recreation, walkable downtown, safe and welcoming, family friendly, strong sense of community, strong and diverse economy, diverse housing options, sustainable, a high quality of life, promotes health and well-being, collaborative and empowering atmosphere, and smart infrastructure investments. So part of what gets incorporated into the plan is a vision statement or a series of vision statements. So the next couple of questions ask you about some draft vision statements that the steering committee has helped to create and how you feel about. So a vision statement should be in keeping with the values and things that people love about a community. Then this is one possibility of a vision statement. In 2044, Lewiston is a prosperous city with a strong sense of community, a small town feel, a thriving and historic downtown, a resilient and diverse economy, smart infrastructure investments, and a collaborative and innovative community with a high quality of life. So think about that phrase as a whole, and then you're gonna rate for me how well you think that statement reflects what people love about Lewiston. This is the 1 through 10, so 10 being yes, this 100% nails it, 1 being not even freaking close. 5 would be in the middle, you kinda.
I'm not gonna finish the rest of it. It's too crappy in its formation and the way that it's introducing a bias to every question.
So those biases were.
Those are strict biases from the questions. You did not allow for an open answer. You had a structured answer for it. I'm not gonna even complete the survey.
Okay, that is fair. All of those answers did come from the previous survey, and those are all words and phrases that were provided by community members.
Yep. I get enough of these for the political ones.
Okay, so number 4, so are there any parts of that statement that are not in keeping with the values of Lewiston? And so it kind of breaks that statement down into pieces. And so if you think if any of those are not in keeping with the values of Lewiston, you would just check mark the ones you don't think keep to the values of Lewiston. And if you think all of them do keep to the values of Lewiston, you don't have to put anything on that one. And then the next one is what parts of the draft vision statement are the most reflective of Lewiston's values? So these are the ones that do the most, they say what Lewiston is and what our values are. Again, same portions of the phrase, just a different way.
Okay,
Yes, Mark.
while people are thinking and answering, isn't this available online digitally when you scan that QR
It
code on
is.
that postcard?
Correct.
So it can be filled out digitally on the computer?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Which is probably what I would do, because you're the one who has to hand type them in?
Yes.
Oh, good lord. You have better things to do with your time.
Do you have consultants on this?
Yes.
Do these consultants help with the survey design?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, once again.
No, I'm saying wow.
Once again, Eric, tons of data was collected earlier in the year in the first go-around, which was very open-ended, both from a survey point of view and also with the booth at Art Under the Elms and other places where ideas were collected, digested, and then poured into this to test these things. If anything, this is more like a Delphi study than an open-ended.
So the
It was never
small
meant-
group did the open survey.
No, it was open to the public. There were hundreds and hundreds, 1,000.
Even Katie,
1912.
Katie can
1900
tell you why and help
That's
our
actually a pretty
participants
good
walk
number.
through it.
Yeah, over 1,900 people took the survey, and then tons and tons of posting notes.
Yes, and that does not include all the post-it notes.
And then I don't know what other events, public events, but it was a wealth of data. And now this is just sort of
What's the purpose of this
like a
survey?
Delphi study. This is testing the data to see. Okay, this is what we collected. Do you agree with these things as we?
Did you have anything negative on any of those surveys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
Where are they?
Huh?
Where
Well,
are
the
they?
purpose of a strategic plan is.
Well, some of the negative things were kind of changed into, okay, so how are we going to improve those? Cause things
Sure.
like lack of housing was one that got brought up a lot. Things like lack of retail options was one that got brought up a lot.
Lack of use.
So when you're comparing
Yes.
today to 44, why is today so positive? I mean, it's just like I left the first row of those blank. I don't get this survey bothers me in its structure. If this is the one going out to people and the one you're gonna be using as a guiding source, it's just a bothering survey.
No, I understand that point of view, but the strategic planning process is not meant to be a community grant session. So,
Although we have received lots of them. That's not the fact. Okay, I'm gonna keep going, so that you guys are not here for a super long time. Okay, so then themes. So remember I said vision is overall, themes are that next part underneath. So themes are the key ideals that run throughout the plan and help show what type of actions may be taken to support the vision. So this is starting to, how do we get there? So consider the following draft theme. Collaboration, facilitation, and investment. Lewiston makes strategic investments while building community trust and connections with and between stakeholders. Do you believe that this theme aligns with the values of Lewiston? And again, this is a 1 through 10, with 10 being the most aligned, 1 being the least aligned. And then considering that same draft theme, you're gonna rank the following actions for how well you think they would fulfill the theme statement, with 1 being the most effective and 5 being the least effective. So these would be actions that we could do to make this theme happen. So active collaboration with residents, businesses, and partner organizations, streamlining regulations and processes, supporting business development, ensuring that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently, consistent implementation of smart infrastructure investments. So then our next theme is economic resilience and diversification. Lewiston prospers as a regional economic hub. So with this draft theme, do you think that aligns with the values of Lewiston? Again, a 1 through 10, 10 being the most aligned, 1 being the least aligned. And then considering that theme, you're gonna rank the following actions for how well you think they would fulfill the theme statement. Again, 1 being most effective, 5 being least effective. So leveraging economic development opportunities, capitalizing on the Port of Lewiston, Idaho's only seaport, developing and retaining a skilled workforce, fostering a business-friendly atmosphere for a diverse range of industries, services, and businesses, creating a resilient and pro-growth business climate that attracts employers and employees. So 1 through 5.
The first one was like.
Back to March.
Okay, then moving on to the next draft theme, high quality of life. Lewiston provides a high quality of life. Again, you're going to rate if you think this draft theme aligns with the values of Lewiston, 10 being the most aligned, 1 being the least aligned.
I like how we want things to be, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The problem I have is the word values,
which is the category.
just the term values.
Yeah,
That's just like,
that does come from the consultant, right? The consultant uses some of this terminology,
well, that one sentence, it ruins
not
every
our-
question.
not our own.
To those that are analytical, they might.
So those who actually build surveys and then evaluate them and then do that, I would say they suck.
So then considering that theme, draft theme, rank the following actions for how well you think they would fulfill the theme statement. So this is a 1 through 7, because there's 7 of these bad boys. With 1 being most effective and 7 being the least effective. sustainable stewardship of natural resources, providing access to a wide array of recreational opportunities, especially along the waterfront, enhancing health and social services, expanding housing options, developing quality employment and educational opportunities, maintaining and enhancing efficient transportation systems, and creating inclusive, community-oriented spaces with a vast array of entertainment options.
I do think that putting together employment and educational into one thing was probably not the best construction because they're so different, employment
And educational.
or education. We can have the best school system in the world, and if all the graduates leave here, it doesn't help our employment.
If I remember correctly from the discussions that the steering committee had in the formation of this survey, I believe that was more oriented to being able to train students that we currently have for the workforce options that we currently have.
Yeah, I think
I remember there being a lot of discussion about technical, trade jobs, and other educational opportunities that would support like the different manufacturing that we have. I'm guessing that's where the consultants went with that question. Okay, so then moving on from themes, you then see a map. So we used a map for opportunities. And so this is kind of just your reference point for where, this is how currently in the comprehensive plan, this is how the city is broken up into neighborhoods. So from the 99 comprehensive plan, this is what we're currently operating with for the division of land in the city. So opportunities are places where vision meets reality. We would like you to consider what places in Lewiston could change in the future to help realize that vision. Identify opportunities listed in this section, or the identified opportunities listed in this section are a reflection of the community input received to date. So this comes from the previous survey and then our public outreach where we asked, what would you like to see? So opportunities are present, what opportunities are present in the downtown Lewiston, Normal Hill, East Lewiston areas that you would like to see realized by 2044? And you can select all that apply, all of that you would like to see. So improve access and connectivity for pedestrians and bikes, transition Snake River Avenue to more residential and commercial uses rather than its existing manufacturing uses, make downtown more vibrant with additional activities, shopping and entertainment options, develop the former Twin City food sites, create additional recreational open space along the riverfront, invest in updated utilities, develop a convention or event space, create a business incubator to help small businesses thrive, develop additional housing options or other, and you can write in whatever your other thought is for that particular area. Just remember, this is just for that particular area, not for the city as a whole. And then the next one is what opportunities are present in North Lewiston that you would like to see realized by 2044. And again, you can just select all of that apply, and there is another write-in option for you. So develop a cruise ship dock to support tourism, create a business and technology park, create additional recreational open space along the riverfront, or other. And then next is what opportunities are present in the orchards or country club areas. So you'll see there's 3 orchards areas and the 1 country club area that you would like to see realized by 2044. Redevelop underutilized retail spaces, create additional housing options, create additional recreational open space along the riverfront. That would be specific to the country club area. Improve street connectivity, develop additional commercial corners to serve residential areas, create conservation areas where appropriate, invest in utility upgrades to support growth, complete the community park, widen and add sidewalks to narrow and substandard streets, or other, and whatever you like. And then the end is just the standard demographic information that we ask for each time. So identify the neighborhood you live in, what your age range is, what your housing status is, your race, and what your annual income is. And if you do not wish to share any of that information, you can really do not wish to share on the survey. And then, like I said at the beginning, this survey is open until next Sunday at midnight. And then all of that information will be wrapped into our next phase. And so you'll probably see me again in a couple of months to review some portions of the actual plan documents.
You mean this coming Sunday, the 17th?
No, the next Sunday. It was originally gonna be the 17th.
So the 24th?
Yeah, they pushed it back another week to encompass a couple other items.
Or are you getting enough responses?
We're not being as many as the first time, but I think we're still getting a good amount.
Well, I saw the postcards over at the health fair. Just that, right?
Yep, Parks said that they would hand them out. Okay, does anybody want cards to go to their business? Do you want some? And did you still want me to come on Tuesday? Do we wanna do it this coming Tuesday?
That sounds smart.
That's good. Thank you.
Do you need more?
What time would be best for you?
I'm gonna have to double check, I'm pretty sure I'm open, I don't think I have any other meeting on Tuesday. So I should be able to do one.
I'll take it. This one, I might realize that 11 is. We're one person. I would say 11 though. I'll just. Guess if I wanted to say no, we're one person.
I know no decisions are final, Katie, but.
I didn't realize normal hill was considered.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm bringing up. For the purposes of where we are now, are you guys sticking with the 7?
No, they're looking to switch that up.
Okay. I found that at the last meeting the most interesting discussion when you guys, I guess Joel threw it up on the screen. And we're talking about this here. It said currently the city's divided into 7.
Boroughs.
You don't wanna call them neighborhoods, 7 work areas, planning areas.
Boroughs.
7 planning
Well, we
areas.
call them neighborhoods, I mean, that's how
That's
it's
what
You
identified,
do, but Joel doesn't like that phrase. Anyway, 7.
but that's what they are.
Uh,
We're thinking of
Do
moving
you,
away from that.
do you think it's, that this is appropriate, or should there be more, should there be less? And it was, of all the things we talked about, it was the most disagreement. Because there were people adamant saying, these are too big, there should be more, like at least 10 or 12. And then there were ones saying, and you know who I'm thinking of, saying, this is too many, no, there should just be 3. The whole city of Lewiston would be covered in 3. And it just went round and round. And, you know, you can see it both ways. It's just basically a question of, well, what purpose does it serve really? It's not like there's neighborhood councils or anything. It's just a planning, each planning area will have its own sub-plan, isn't that right?
Sort of, yeah.
That's kind of why you're asking this
Yes,
question.
each area has like goals and objectives that are specific to the area.
That's how I ended up like.
So it's kind of like, why should the orchards be in 3 different sectors if the atmosphere of all 3 is substantially the same? Yeah, no, I'm not,
Think about
I'm not
the
saying what
area.
side I was on,
Think about the area around the airport versus, you know, the very far end of East Orchards. Are those
Yeah,
the
but
same?
one thing, people were talking about the built environment. Nobody was talking about the population who lived there,
Right. How that goes.
which frequently changes decade by decade.
Yes, for sure.
Based
That is something that
on
they're spending quite a bit of time trying to figure out what the better direction to go is. So. Any other questions? Yes, I have those. Any other questions for me?
I'll show you. No, I haven't filled it out. Let me take it.
Oh, okay.
I know. Number 5 is airport park. Let's see. Yeah, that's airport park. And the other one, number 4, is people dog park. I think the numbers.
Yeah, I think they
Not that anyone's gonna really care about this, I just want to call it.
yeah, no, I had not noticed that.
Because the airport park's not up, right?
You're almost at normal one. I know, I saw that.
I can normal call and I'm sort of things.
Yeah, you live down the street from me. I'm gonna do it online.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes up.
Are you gonna do it online?
Didn't you or Joel send it out?
Don't like that.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
yeah, I think we already did. I was like, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I mixed up my tens and my ones though, but.
That's,
I know, right?
that's a big mix-up.
okay. It's like golden one.
I even read the instructions and I was like, okay, got it.
All right, well, thank you very much for letting me present to you guys again today. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
And please try to well, I'll send you an email once I get back to my office, okay?
Thank you, Katie.
Fantastic, thank you.
Maybe I should go ahead and do it again.
Maybe.
Madam Chair. So if I could just, I mean, not to belabor the point, but, so I represent this commission there and I always speaking up on behalf of persons with disabilities and things of that nature. Which, because part of this is being funded, or all of it, from a grant from Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation, the city is required to have a health and wellness component to this whole plan, which is highly unusual. But the one significant input that I had when they had us go around the table and provide a vision of what you would like to see in the future in Lewiston, and I talked about a neighborhood, a section of the city in a neighborhood where you didn't have to own cars. So a walkable, bikeable neighborhood, a neighborhood, sidewalks, a neighborhood with necessary conveniences close by, so you don't have to have a car or drive halfway across town to get some basic thing. And that seemed to be positively supported by other people on the committee.
Isn't that normal pill though?
You would think that that's the first thing that would come to mind, but it could be so much more than that. First of all, I mean, so that's a start because there are sidewalks, but connectivity between the hill and downtown is a huge issue. Especially if you're disabled, and I mean, one could even envision. I'm just going to go way out there, where you could turn some of the streets and avenues on Normal Hill to one way, one lane, and start installing bike paths, and spaces of that nature. So the point being that Normal Hill, like everything else in the city, is still car oriented, very car oriented. And to implement what I was talking about, which is in a lot of bigger cities and European cities and whatnot, is would involve changes to the city code. You don't necessarily require 2 parking spaces for every dwelling unit because you assume a lot of people won't own cars. So that's just a waste of space. And what else? Oh, you get over the planning department's hang up over spot zoning. Oh, you can't put this little commercial business in the middle of a residential zone. They have like some allergy about that. And it's like, that's exactly what you need to support a walkable neighborhood.
You need
Where-
higher density residential.
Where there's a convenience store, there's a beauty parlor, there's stuff like that, all within walking distance. I mean, when I lived in Chicago, and I itemized every single business that was within 5 blocks of where I lived. And I was in a residential zone, but surrounding it was all the conveniences of life. You didn't need to own a car. Anyway, so it would still alter the nature of Normal Hill or any other neighborhood you wanted to pick. But the point being is we don't really have a walkable neighborhood in that sense where you could go car free. But maybe we should by 2044.
We have a lot of things we're saying.
Is there any more discussion on, except from Eric?
Point of order, even though we don't use Robert's rules, do we approve the minutes?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, I don't have my agenda.
Oh, okay, yes, it's the next thing.
Because then next up is an action item.
No, the Medicaid program is next.
Oh, it's not the next thing.
These is so I also.
Soon though.
So on the active agenda, and I'm not necessarily sure it has to be active, but just in the event that we chose to go that route, it was the safest bet to put it there. Jed Randall had forwarded Hannah Lickey and I an email about the shortage of direct support or direct care providers in the valley, and that progressively as the years go on, we are going to need thousands more. But as it is, because of Medicaid reimbursement rates, agencies can't afford to pay staff enough to keep them in the job. Most staff choose to leave because of pay, not because of the job. And so the suggestion was that we draft a letter to city council to suggest that they draft a letter to the governor. Is that how you read it, Nikki?
That's exactly how I
Okay.
read it.
So I
I
know,
certainly think that given Mark's kind of discussion on the data, where we're headed as a community, certainly think that we need to definitely be talking about that and seeing what we can encourage more city involvement in that discussion at the state level.
You don't even have to invoke me, you run the organization. Out there, you have direct knowledge. What's
I'm gonna
the,
abstain from that based on my employment. I'm gonna be able to participate in that.
really?
I'm sorry, well, she works for the state.
Between a rock and a hard place on that.
To what extent is, and these probably go hand in glove, is the situation the Idaho allowance for Medicaid reimbursement versus how much of it is simply the difference in the minimum wage?
I think that there is a factor there that is associated with that, but the industry on either side of the river is also affected, and the industry on the other side of the river is reimbursed at a much higher rate over there as well. They have different priorities for their taxation.
What would happen, because there is talk of raising the national minimum wage, which Idaho takes to it, if Congress did that, if they raised the national minimum wage to $10 an hour, which is still way below the state of Washington, but let's say they did that, how would that affect the Medicaid reimbursements? Would they need to would the state of Idaho need to appropriate more money? Or would they just say, well, there's just less money to go around, so now you have even fewer employees?
Well, I feel like, and correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong,
Because I don't know how they fit together.
that I know OUI already bases wages off of reimbursement rates. So any change in national minimum wage, I don't feel as though it would really positively affect us.
My company, at least, our wages are not associated with the Idaho minimum wage. So I don't know that that would have an impact on us.
It's a nice idea. Eric?
I'm on several state committees and such where we've been fighting this for about 2 years and aggressively fighting it with the state of Idaho, and actually got a report out that was kind of put on hold, a long story. But the Medicaid reimbursement, we're actively trying to work on that, but once you put in a plan, you're not changing that plan, you got a waiver in there. And the complications of it, at the same time as we have people, we have about 10 or so, maybe 15 legislators who want to say kill Medicaid in the entirety. The state wants to do a lot of things, but the complications when the budget comes up at JFAC, and 2 of these people are on JFAC, it makes it a bear. And I think the letter would be good, but going to, rather than the governor, sent it to our legislators, because the governor's not an issue. It is more our senators and representatives, and mostly representatives. So that's just the.
That's a touche.
Yeah, that's the real issue right now, because the JFAC, the Department of Health and Welfare knows we've got this issue and it's only getting worse. The DD folks, HCBS, anything like that, it's just like, when I was at a regional meeting in Montana, or at a meeting, we were discussing it, and I just got to calculating, what the waiver rate and whatever versus working at McDonald's. McDonald's came out to like 17 plus an hour with benefits and everything else, and you were down at 9 to 10 with no benefits on the reimbursement for direct care workers. So it's a significant problem. It is more legislators than it is the governor's office.
That's very true.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I sat in on it's called Access.
No.
No. Okay, but it's like a coalition of DDAs from around the state that get together and they talk about the difficulties that they have had and how
What's a
to,
DDA?
a developmental disability agency. The issues that they have come across, and it's kind of a team building thing to try to get the agencies to be more in compliance, to be more effective, to advocate for not just reimbursement rates, but for change and the like, and we're seeing this across the state, like it's not just at Lewiston where I know everybody's complaining about.
It's nationwide.
It is, and it's been widely reported as such too. And if our state government is aware of it, they're aware of it, and writing a letter may or may not have any impact
It's
at all.
within the
It's not gonna hurt.
plan.
So,
And
that
strategic plan.
the state's plan.
There's a line item, strategic.
I suspected as much as well.
Who do you work for again?
Department of Health and Welfare.
Oh,
Do we have to modify the
Perfect.
waiver and go through that entire process to change the reimbursement rate that we kind of set in there? I know it's set every year and you're not dealing with it, but to actually have a way to change it in a timely manner.
That I think is actually really one of the kind of confounding
That's the
problems.
issue that I don't see what they can do that we're responsible.
And particularly in the last few years, our economy, particularly our economy adjacent to Parkston, where we are, our needs, our economic needs in this community have changed much more rapidly than the ability of the state to mobilize.
That's what I've seen.
it's huge.
And I've definitely identified that as being a problem. And I've been part of the team that's been very closely involved with discussions with the state about this, and that's kind of what they've been kind of coming back to, is like, there is a plan, there is a dream. We did just have some increases not too long ago in terms
Yeah.
of state government.
Mhm.
But given the fact that our needs have changed so much, so drastically, so quickly, I think that being able to make modifications to reimbursement rates, to aspects of the plan in a more timely manner would be beneficial.
I see when listening to JFAC and the conversations and such, is it's just like, you wanna put in a big buffer
Right.
so you can deal with something that's going on there, because it always happens. And I don't know where it's at, but I know there's many groups looking at getting that timely change of the rate because of the direct care shortage.
Right.
But I don't know, I
So
don't know where
what I
it's
will
at.
say is that even if rates are increased, unless there is a Medicaid cap increase, you still have to fall within the same parameters.
And when you're saying the cap, you're just talking about the application for Medicaid, or is there a cap on the whole state?
On the on the
When you say cap, what does the cap mean?
expenditures, state total expenditures.
Okay, so we have $4.5 billion Medicaid, of which you got what, 20%, 24% coming from the state, 75% from the feds.
Correct.
So if we go over $4.5 billion, that's our cap? Or where our cap is $4.5 billion or whatever it is?
Right,
Okay. So,
without having another allocation out of JFAC.
Right.
yes, and it's that ability for Department of Health and Welfare, or whoever's in charge of Medicaid on that, to be able to make the judgment call of the adjustment in the rates. But, you know, the rates are one thing, but the benefits, you'll never attack, and that's a huge problem now. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out, it's still to me going to the legislators.
Madam Chair, could you expand upon your comment when you said it's in the strategic plan?
So just like cities have strategic plans, the Department of Health and Welfare, as well as the governor's office has strategic plans.
So what's it's in the strategic?
Improving the, I think it's more encompassing than just wage, but of direct care staff.
Because in
It
Idaho,
may include training as well.
I think certification to make
Yeah,
it a legitimately professional job
there was
is
a whole
part of.
survey that just came out on that.
I know that training is an aspect of that, I'm part of the committee
Do we,
developing that.
do we do that now?
right, let's have even
I don't know personally.
who meet stricter
Not to
criteria.
make direct support professionals actually
we-
professional.
Did we carry over from the pandemic that family members can be caretakers, paid
It
caretakers?
expires on 11/11/23. It is currently being considered for some sort of a possibility of another program, similar program that will have a little more oversight than that.
Other states do use family members
Oh, yeah.
on the waivers. Idaho
We
just
didn't
has
ask
to
for it.
have a code change.
And we would have to,
That's
we
the
have to
waiver
change-
process. That was the two big things, to split the family members, and I knew it was gonna run out, but I wasn't sure, then they were in there extending it.
Yeah, they've extended it quite a bit.
But and then the economy wise, we're going back to almost the reason, this is really old stuff, it's historical. When the church took care of the Jerry's, they owned a lot of property. And in England, when the king took over all that land,
Alright,
all of a sudden, all these family members were having to care for their family members. The church was no longer there, and for 40 years, the economy was crashing until they realized what they'd done, and then the poorhouses started coming. And the poorhouses came over.
we're not going back to
Mayflower.
poorhouses, so.
No, but the concept of state involvement with care has been there forever because it's an economy driver.
Well, at the risk of being simplistic on this, listening to what you're all saying, and you're coming from different points of view. What I can't quite wrap my head around what's going on, and this always happens in Idaho, always. Is the discussion about appropriating more money, or is the discussion just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic about, oh, well, if we do this and we tweak that, and we twist this and we tweak that, then everything will get magically better? Because if that's all it is, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, the Treasure Valley always wins and we always lose.
I don't think that's.
So is it money? Is it appropriating
It is, but it's
millions
also.
of dollars of more money? Because that's what this letter would be asking for.
Yes,
Not just
but
tweaking
to do
things
that,
down there.
you've got 50 states in the Medicaid arena, each of them have their own arrangements with the federal government. None of them are identical.
Okay.
So you've gotta come out here and we've got a waiver. We have to fix the waiver if we're gonna do something. I don't know how you go about doing that. But then we've got the problem, and with the boomers, we know it's gonna get worse, but families gonna have to start caring for them. more, which takes them out of the economy. Goes back to my church and state thing.
Well, though,
It took
parents
a
is,
while, but it linked it up for me.
but parents is caregivers, I mean, they're still paid.
Currently.
Paid, but you can beat their pay at almost any place they go to.
That's a separate problem, I think, but the main issue that I see with the parents, the family members, et cetera, is the exclusion was for parents and spouses. And the real issue there is that there's a lot of opportunity for fraud there, just being very
Absolutely.
candid. But what I see is that there is a lot of opportunities for parents that are lost because they are not able to work gainfully anywhere else in a lot of situations, not
Yes.
every, obviously. But I do think that that's kind of a separate problem. I think that the larger problem, the one that I think that is not going away by 2044, is the fact that our aged and disabled population is going to continue to increase, and it's going to continue to increase beyond our capacity for providing care for that, particularly in the homes. And if that's something that we prioritize,
That's the next 10 years.
we're gonna have to start figuring out how we're going to see that down the road as a community, as a state.
The Disability Advisory Commission, this started with Jed's letter recommending we make a statement to someone. If we're gonna make a statement, I'm saying it's legislators, because it's really a complex problem that the legislature needs to deal with, because we got this
Which I think we all
deal
agree
with
with.
events.
Well, it could be both. All you're suggesting is a recommendation to the council that they draft a letter. We're not sending a letter. That they draft a letter, they can send it to the governor and the legislators. Anyone who would listen.
Practically, wouldn't we be the ones drafting the letter for their consideration?
Would we? Everything seems to have to go through the city attorney.
Well, yeah, I
That's
mean,
just a
they probably
recommendation.
reference your letter as what they wanna write to the governor.
Or they just take it and they do it.
Yeah.
That's why, anytime we've done a recommendation in the past, it's just a recommendation, they take and do whatever they want with it. But generally, you gotta give them the idea of the paperwork.
Who's gonna write it, Constance? Yeah. Is there one already written?
There is not.
Okay.
I'd be willing to participate.
Okay.
Here is your participation trophy. Yeah.
So Matt and I will jointly co-pen this letter.
I'm willing to participate if that is something that we want to do.
Call me in.
Participate.
Call me in if you want it data driven, or you have all the same data, but I don't know that it needs to be data laden with the
Yeah.
upcoming aging population, but if someone feels that
That
would
actually
be
would,
helpful.
I think that is one of the other issues that we're coming across, is that there's a lot of anecdotal data and there's not enough hard numbers for.
Speaking of Medicaid,
Bye.
see ya
Thank you.
Thursday at 1 every week.
Have a good day, Amy.
Bye, Amy. Bye, Amy.
Well, for those of you who weren't at the last senior summit meeting, which I think was most of you, all of you, we presented a slide that we probably didn't spend as much time on as we should have, but it answered the question that had arisen previously, that if this aging has been going on for a while, why haven't we felt the effects until like maybe recently? And in a nutshell, what I did was take the leading edge of the baby boomers born 1946 to 55. And that's a much bigger number than the generation ahead of that, born before 46, and marched them through time. So they started retiring in 2011, and so they have spent this past period, ages 65 to 74, that is not an age range that a lot of people have to avail themselves. I mean, obviously some do that are in bad health, but they don't have to avail themselves of a lot of services.
Yeah, they're tripling it.
Well, guess what? From 2020 to 2030, this decade, not the next decade, this decade, that group moves into ages 75 to 84. The prime period where people have to start seeking supportive services. And so we flashed that up there, the time chart. And yeah, the home health agencies were like, oh yeah, we're seeing it right now. And we're gonna be drowning by 2030. We don't have to wait till 2040. We're gonna be underwater by 2030 because of the leading edge of the baby boomers. And so that was a big, it's not rocket science. It was just taking aging data and projecting it across time. So.
In August, we do advocacy on the Hill, we do it locally. And I will say that the representative senators are pretty well aware of this problem. Because we brought it up and they're very mindful of it. And I don't know that they have a solution, but they know it's a big problem.
That is my impression as well. The letter would just be a letter.
It's not gonna hurt.
But I also get the impression that the departments are blaming it on the congresspeople blaming it on the department. So that way nobody really has to take.
I don't know how it's going.
I've heard people, this is hearsay, but I have heard from some people who have spoken with legislators to say, I get it, I'm with you, but the department's not gonna do that. Then the department will turn around and say, tell your legislators to increase their budget.
As she was saying, I mean, if you're a state employee, there is a statute out there that you keep your mouth shut on any of this stuff. You have to follow the directors and the governor's statements. You cannot get sideways to it. So they're not gonna be able to go in and advocate for this stuff.
I'm not saying advocate, but the department as a whole.
Well, I will say when you get Jepson in front of JFAC, I think they do a pretty good job. But they're being whacked at pretty hard.
There's also kind of an incentive to just kick the can down the curb rather than deal with it now.
Absolutely.
And that's where the crux of the issue is for me, is that if I intend to stay where I'm at and intend to stay involved where I'm at as I am,
I don't know where you're
this
involved.
can is going to be kicked right down into my property.
He runs that as well.
Director of Addis.
So I run
what?
a home care
Addis.
agency.
Oh, okay.
And so
Yes.
I'm right in the middle of this right now. As you have said, I believe that we are very near the drowning point. It is in the not too distant future.
Well, Madam Chair, if this letter, again, I don't quite know where the city council is, really grasping the implications of what we're dealing with. If this letter were to contain specifics as opposed to be generalities that any city in Idaho could send, the two unique things here that cry out for this area being an experimental, a pilot project or experimental anything is, we're the oldest population center, and this is the Valley County, both sides, in the entire Pacific Northwest, over 50,000 people. We're the oldest population. And number two, we are right on the state border, which has a higher minimum wage and is able to attract the talent and whatnot. And so no other place in Idaho can say this. No other place. This is unique.
That brings merit to a letter coming from us.
This is unique to Lewiston. And until people start wrapping their brain around that and understanding our unique, but then again, I start all these meetings by saying, if you expect solutions to come from Boise and Olympia, but again, they're not focusing on our needs here. We have to solve our own problems.
Am I wrong on when I'm looking at this and looking at the decade and everything else, and I have experience in the long-term care arena and financing how you pay for long-term care and the cost benefit of keeping people in their homes versus in the facilities.
Institutionalized.
from what I'm seeing right now, the drive is it will be to the institutions because we don't have the direct care workers. So then you're now into the fiscal issues, which gets you into paying the long-term care prices from Medicaid,
Which is
which is a
considerably more expensive.
lot of money. Well, there's like 20 or 30,000 people in that right now, but we've kept our costs down by the home care-based services programs and the waivers and actually having family participate. But I'm saying that's gonna waste, because like is Washington a lot more on their reimbursement rates for the Medicaid, which just nails us. So, yeah, I'm just saying we're gonna have this long-term care issue. You folks are gonna, you won't be able to supply the need, I don't see. And that's just a terrific problem. I like what Mark is saying as to the specifics of here.
There's a
It's
reason
educating the council too.
There's a reason people move from here to there, across the river, when they retire.
Mark,
There's
would
all
you be able
kinds
to send me the data that you had presented to us
Okay.
so that I could incorporate? Because that was a really good presentation, that's a lot of good numbers.
But I learned something at a different meeting in this past month, that had a Sheba representative, the health insurance,
Yes.
volunteers, on the Zoom out of Coeur d'Alene. I didn't realize that there are some state components to Medicare. I thought Medicare was universal across the country. There are some state components, especially when you get into Medicare Part C, the Medicare Advantage plan. And it depends on where you live. And someone moving across the river, Minnesota, has far more options
Yes.
to pick things out of Medicare versus if you stayed in this county where you have far fewer options under Medicare. And I thought, I never knew that. I thought it was universal. Like, yet another reason why people just jump that river.
The universal components, the original Medicare with Part A and Part B and Part D. Anything in Part C is kind of contract driven and all this, it's actually considered by Congress now one of the biggest areas of abuse, and they're really pissed off at it.
Yeah, well, you let the private sector with their nose under the tent. But anyway, it's all very, very interesting, and we counseled an 82-year-old couple last week who lives over there, was looking ahead. They were actually planning ahead, they weren't in crisis, about services. And when I suggested certain things over here, they said there's absolutely no way we would ever move to Idaho. Said that is not an option. We will not move to Idaho. And I thought, oh, wow, okay. I can privately send Constance data without running it through you, right? Yeah, okay.
No, you don't have to run it through us. No reply alls.
Right. Are we done with that topic?
I think so,
believe so.
because it's one. So for our last action item, approval of minutes from August 10th. Anybody have any?
I just have one comment, just as a practice, when I'm dealing with various groups in minutes, try and break it down so that this person is present, this person is not present but excused or gave notice, whatever you want to call it, and this person just was not present. There's reasons for that, and when you go in and you have someone where there's a question of them staying on it because they're not participating, you want to be able to document it. And the minutes are your documentation. Like here, I'm pretty sure I let people know I wasn't going to be in town for this day. So I'm just showing as being absent. So it'd be absent with notice or absent excused, but then it's who's a question of who can excuse. But at least it's in there that there was some motion made. It's like I'm on 2 different state things now where we've had to ask people to leave. And I'm on the state Republican parties where they've actually figured out that they gotta do this because you're gonna ask someone to step down. You're gonna get sued if you don't have those minutes. So it's just a practical thing. So I'm just saying, here in the minutes, just as an ongoing action, you say, okay, the person's not here, they didn't let anybody know, they're just absent. if they're absent, but they let people know they wouldn't be there, you can either say with cause or gave notice or whatever you want. It's just a practical thing. So I'm asking that it say, Eric,
Yeah, I would say
With
you're
notice.
you're the commissioner, so if
I
that's how you want
mean,
us to
we
do
do put on the minutes who's here and who's not here, we just don't say when they're not here whether they've
That's
been
the point.
excused or not.
Excused or not excused.
that's the point, if you
So
come
who
into a
wants to
question,
excuse?
I don't have a problem with that. I belong to a lot of groups that do that too.
I've been involved with people not attending and other things, and it's just like, you're way better off to have it in the minutes, defining it
I know.
that way.
So as a group, do you, when you can't attend, do you wanna email Constance and copy us?
I mean, yeah, I guess who's
Or-
excusing
I
that,
just send it to
us
you
or?
or whoever, I don't care, as long as,
If they,
I can do a
or
group
with
email.
notification, if they notify you that they can't be there,
Mhm,
then
that's
they're
excused.
excused
Okay.
versus they just don't show up.
Okay,
Okay, I make a motion that we have that as a standing policy, that if they call in or just give notice that it be entered in the minutes as absent with an
with
excuse.
excuse, okay.
I would second that.
Are we able to do a vote on something like that? Is that a
Policy
thing?
issue.
Policy
But
issue.
it's not on the agenda.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, is like, I don't know that it's a,
Well, let's just say,
the action item
I mean,
is
we
on
could just-
approval of the
I think we
Let's
could
just do
just
this.
do it.
Vote,
do it.
yeah, we can just do it.
I think we can just
I
do
don't
it
think you
as
need a
just
vote.
Yeah,
just a procedure.
Where it really ties in is, does our bylaws say that anyone, as is very typical, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, and if it says unexcused, or
I
without
think
notice,
it does have
Then-
something in the
It
bylaws.
probably does.
then your
does.
position
It
is,
does, I remember reading
then
So I
something.
your
don't know the
position is
number.
automatically considered vacated. No other, we don't have to vote you off, or the city council remove you. Or whatever it says there about missing meetings is what's
I think
relevant.
I remember seeing that you had to attend so many meetings in the course of a year in order to stand.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. that
Not
could be- that could
necessarily
be-
consecutive.
well, I mean, we can do it that way,
Yeah, we can just do it, you don't have to vote on it.
I think it sounds, well, I'm just doing that because I do it to most groups that I work with and saying, you really wanna do this, because I've been involved in litigation, and the minutes are that's what is done, and that's where everyone goes to. Even if you say you were over there, if it says you weren't there. Cause you had an opportunity to fix it, and you didn't.
I will start that next month.
Well, I move that, we accept the minutes as read.
Second,
See, can you second if you weren't at the last meeting?
sure?
Yeah.
Anybody can second anything.
Okay. Well, isn't that what we're,
Except, I don't care whether you do it this one or not, I mean, it's just a practice that we should be in.
Alright, well,
I-
any discussion? I'll move.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 1:05.
I just wanna let you guys know, you might have seen the emails with the agendas, look a little different. We're using a computer program, Civic Clerk, to create our agendas and send them out.
Yeah.
So we have a DAC list and it emails the same thing to you guys. So there's a link, so make sure that you click on that link to view the agenda. Okay, and then it'll do the same thing for minutes.
Yeah, and that's working, that's
Okay.
actually
I
working
just,
fine.
when I went searching for it, I had to remember.
It's just
not-
very
Not
minimal.
search for Nikki or
Yeah.
not search for Leah, I had to search for no
Search for
reply.
No reply,
Or
yeah.
like disability advisory minutes.
Yeah,
I guess I could.
and then the other thing is
The only
that
thing I could. What's it
IT
called? The software's called what?
Civic Clerk,
Okay.
you know, there's Civic Plus, which is our website, and then you have all these modules you can add on,
Oh,
and one of them
wow.
is Civic Clerk.
Oh, wow.
But also, IT has changed the room setup, and they're doing Zoom rooms. And we have Zoom phones, the city's just going to everything Zoom. But
Interesting.
the way that it works is, it won't live stream, but immediately after the meeting, it will post to our YouTube.
That's great.
So,
So it's being recorded.
it's being recorded, but it's not live streaming, so just so you guys know.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, the
I just
fact
wanna
that
make
it's
sure.
out there, it's like I was doing something yesterday where I went over, I had to get something off of Washington of some of the testimony, and it's the fact that they had that, they had it archived,
Can you link to
Works
that?
great.
Because I don't think most people know the city has a YouTube channel. Can you link to it from the city's website?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fairly new thing and it does, it links to,
Okay.
instead of showing it live stream on Facebook, it'll probably show a link to the YouTube.
That's much better.
And then you can control it a little bit better, so I wanna make sure you guys were aware of that.
No, that's great.
So for the next 45 minutes, over at the community center is the senior health and wellness fair. Although they don't call it senior anymore, it's just health and wellness fair. Adams doesn't have a table.
No,
That's fine, I don't have a table either, but it's so valuable to go around and visit everyone else's table and bags of swag, right?
Yeah, and they got lots of
Yeah.
good stuff.